What's up? I just want to do a quick recap of UFC 289. Overall, I thought the pay-per-view card was awesome, except for the main event. That was tough to get through. But overall, thought it was a pretty good card. Not a great card on paper, but they're in Canada. Had 5 Canadian fighters on there, 6 actually. And I had a suspicion that they would turn up and put on good performances and get some exciting finishes, and that's what happened. And overall, I had a fun time with the card, except for the main event. But they didn't do so well. I went 500, perfectly 500 because of the Chris Curtis no contest. You know, I hit most of the underdogs except for Kyle Nelson. That one hurts. I should have known better, I guess. I had too much confidence on Blake Builder. And I picked Aldana in the main event just because, and that was dumb. And I should have picked Charles Oliveira. So, yeah. But quick run through, Belbita, Oliveira, Belbita, just better fighter, basically, and she's from representing Canada. And then, my favorite pick that I got on the card at flyweight, David Dvorak and Steve Erceg. Pretty competitive fight. I went with Steve Erceg. He was coming off a couple days' notice. I understand that gives pause to some people, but recently over the past month or so, we've seen a lot of short notice fighters come on a few days' notice, a week's notice, and win. And I didn't think Dvorak was worth the minus 300 price tag that he had. And I went with Steve Erceg, and he got it done. It was a fun fight. It was competitive. It was close. I'd say it was close. I thought Erceg gave up the first round, but Erceg did a really good job. He was landing the more powerful shots. And Dvorak, he was kind of trying to outpoint him, be more precise, but Erceg, he fought like a guy that came off a few days' notice and had to do something spectacular. And I thought that his cardio might be an issue going forward, but he was able to wrestle and grapple and pull submission attempts through the second and the third round. So he got it done. He looked really good. The only problem is in the second round when he had him hurt really bad up against the cage, tried to pull that guillotine. Big mistake. Almost cost him, but he got it done. But it's funny because Mike Malott did the same thing, and it worked out for him, so you never know. But yeah, Erceg comes in, beats the number 10 guy on his first fight. Can't ask for a better debut than that, so really good stuff. And then looking through, and then Kyle Nelson and Blake Builder. Just looking at the tape, Kyle Nelson lost 3 in a row. Should have lost his last one. It was a no contest. And Blake Builder, I just looking at the tape, I just thought Blake Builder was a more technical fighter. I thought he'd be able to kind of piece up Kyle Nelson, and I thought Kyle Nelson's only chance was landing big shots. Blake Builder looked good early on. He was like some 1-2s at range, kind of jabbing him up. But Kyle Nelson would fire back with those right crosses, and he would land the bigger, stiffer shots. Kyle Nelson started utilizing some leg kicks, and Blake Builder looked really good in the first round. After that, he just kind of danced around him, and Kyle Nelson was landing the bigger shots, and Builder had trouble getting in on him. And through the third round, Blake Builder was behind, but he had the confidence. He was dancing. He was smiling. The confidence of a guy, it's like, oh, I know I'm down, but I'm going to turn this around, and he didn't. He was losing in the third round, and he started trying to pump up the crowd and was, like, dancing and smiling. So, yeah, fade Blake Builder forever now until he proves otherwise. And Kyle Nelson, you look at the storyline aspect of a bet. He lost 3 in a row, should have lost his last one. Is he really going to lose 4 in a row in Canada, in his hometown, and get cut? I should have said no. I should have thought, no, storyline has to work out here. Because the tape wasn't showing me that Kyle Nelson was a better fighter. Sometimes you just kind of got to go with the moment. And, I should have, because I've been trying to focus on just betting on the fight itself. But in some situations, when there's 6 Canadian fighters on the card, and is he going to lose his career in Canada? So, and plus, he's a plus 200 underdog as well. So I should have looked at it like that, I guess. And Kyle Nelson saves his job. So good one. And Blake Builder has a lot of maturing to do, in my opinion. And then Eamon Zahabi and Aori Lang. Zahabi just knocked him out. This was a pretty closely aligned fight. I just thought Aori would be able to land some of the bigger shots throughout the fight, and Aori was landing on him, and then Zahabi just lands a bomb on him right away, kind of out of nowhere, very fast, and that's what happens, man. He was a Canadian fighter, and all the Canadians won on this card. So that was something that I didn't anticipate before. But yeah, sometimes weird stuff kind of happens, and yeah, he got it done. So good for him. And then one of my other good picks was Jasmine Jasudavicius against Miranda Maverick at women's flyweight. I really like Miranda Maverick. I was really high on her. Really good wrestling. But Jasmine Jasudavicius was a plus 200 underdog from Canada. And I thought her last fight, she looked really good in the wrestling department. So I thought at the very least they would kind of neutralize each other. But Jasmine Jasudavicius surprised me. She was able to stuff all Miranda Maverick's takedowns and get on top, get the advantageous positions. She was able to do a little bit of damage against Miranda Maverick. Miranda Maverick could not get back up. Jasudavicius, not the most technical, but she's just tenacious. And whenever she's on that body lock, she's going for an inside or an outside trip. She's got the underhook. She is tenacious up against the fence, and she's going to try to rip you down to the ground. And that's kind of what you need sometimes when two fighters have similar skill sets and are close in skill level. And Jasudavicius, every single round, she was able to stuff the or except for the first round, but second and the third round, she was able to stuff those takedowns. And she made Miranda Maverick pay for trying to take her down. And Miranda Maverick, she was taking like single legs to the outside, trying to go for that bow step or running the pipe. And she was too far out. And Jasudavicius, nothing fancy, just hit a sprawl and was able to get on top and do some work on there. She got done over 3 rounds. The first round, though, Jasudavicius went for the takedown, and Miranda Maverick had the armbar situation, and that was like that for the whole round. Nothing happened really before that, so I don't really know who you give that round to, because it wasn't like it was a close armbar threat, like it wasn't a cash, you would call it. It wasn't really fully extended, and Jasudavicius was on top, so I don't know. Honestly, I think it should have been a 10-10 round, but they don't do 10-10, so I don't know. But Jasmine got rounds 2 and 3 clearly and got it done. Big underdog. I'm happy I picked that one. And that's kind of my rule. If you're betting women's, bet underdogs, and that's why. So then the prelim main event, 185 pounds, actually Imavov and Chris Curtis. I went with Chris Curtis. He was a slight underdog, plus 130, 140, I believe. And yeah, Chris looked okay. I would say he was behind when the no contest happened, but he was starting to come back, and he kind of shines in the later rounds. It was like about halfway through the fight when it happened. In the first round, Chris was landing some leg kicks and some jabs, landing some hooks on the inside. He looked really good. He got off to a faster start this fight than previous fights. I was happy about that. But then Imavov was landing some 1-2s, kind of standing at range. And, you know, he was landing clean on Curtis. But then and then Imavov just kind of gets around his back and drags him down, which was weird. Chris, it seems like he didn't fight him a whole lot, so I don't really know what that was about. But then Chris was able to get up. He lands some more hooks on the inside, but then he gets drugged down again. And then Imavov got that figure 4, had a rear naked choke attempt. So Chris usually loses the first round, no big deal. Then in the second round, Chris was landing some hooks in the pocket, and he started flicking his jab out. He starts turning up the tempo a little bit. But then Imavov was countering with some straight shots. But then Chris was able to stuff the clinch attempts. He was able to pummel up against the fence, and he was looking okay. And then Imavov inadvertently headbutts him right above the eye. And they had to stop it. And it sucks, but I'm glad they stopped it because it was a nasty cut. And also, Chris Curtis would have had to fight a good guy that he's down on the scorecards whenever he's taking an illegal shot to the head. So he's kind of compromised, plus that cut. It just wasn't fair to Chris, so I'm glad they called it a no contest. And yeah, Imavov was winning. If you had to put money on it, I would say Imavov would have won the fight. But you don't know. Chris turns it on in the later stages, and we saw Imavov kind of gas against Buckley in the third round. So Chris looked okay, man. Imavov is good. He's coming off of that whooping against Sean Strickland, and he's probably learned a lot of things, probably shored a lot of things up in the gym. I thought Chris looked okay. You know, he got taken down, but you know, he was able to get up for the most part. And then it's not like Imavov was getting his takedowns relentlessly, like in the second round. You know, it was pretty competitive. So, sucks. No contest. But I really want to see both these guys rematch again. I think it's a perfect fight for each guy. Are they going to rematch again? Who knows? But just a shame it has to end like that. First fight on the main card. Got this one right. Marc-Andre Barriault taking on Eric Anders at middleweight 185. This fight was a lot more fun than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a boring clinch fest, and it was a clinch fest, but it was fun. And they were both landing big shots on each other, and They both, it was either Eric Anders pressing Mark to the cage or Mark pressing Anders to the cage. And it was just a fun fight, you know. It wasn't super violent, not a ton of knockdowns or anything like that. Just a fun fight. Two guys with kept good cardio the whole fight, and they went back and forth, and I had a good time. In the first round, Mark drops him with a body kick and then a straight right, and then lands some ground and pound right away, right off the bat. But after that, Eric, he didn't get hurt too much after that happened. And Eric actually came back and made each round pretty competitive, pretty close, and made me nervous, to be honest. But then Eric was pressuring with some clinches, and then he was landing some knees and Mark was landing some knees and elbows when Eric was coming into him. But then Eric was landing some hooks in the pocket, and then Mark was able to stuff the takedown attempts from Anders. Anders likes to go to that snatch single. Then he was landing some jabs at range, and then Mark landed some knees to the body and the head toward the end of the first round. Close toss-up first round. I thought you could have given it to Eric. But then the second round, Mark was landing some crosses and some overhands and some jabs. And then whenever he gets pressed with body kicks from Eric, then Eric was able to get the single leg bow step, kind of hits that cradle position, but then Mark was able to stand up from there, made Eric use that much more energy and didn't get rewarded with the takedown. But then Eric was landing some straight shots, and Mark landed a body kick and a right cross and a left hook, started pumping some jabs, ended the second round pretty strong. Then in the third round, Mark was landing some jabs on the outside. He landed a right body kick, then a right cross in succession. That was a good combination for him. He hit that in the first round as well. And then he landed some uppercuts and some hooks in the clinch. But then he lands a head kick and a right hook. And then Eric landed some crosses. And then he shoots. And he landed a nice head kick at the end there. But, you know, Mark blocked most of it, and he was able to kind of circle away. And it was kind of a all or nothing for Eric at that point. But he got it done. Watching it, I thought it was pretty close. They gave Marc-Andre every round. I don't know if I agree with that. Oh, I'm sorry. There's no way Eric won the first round. I thought Eric possibly won the second round. I forgot. Eric got dropped right away. And I thought it was competitive, and I really thought it came down to the third round. But, yeah, a close competitive fight. Eric Anders still has it. You know, he can still have some fun fights left in the UFC. And then Marc-Andre bounces back. He had to win his last fight. And then before that, you know, got dominated by Fletcher Hernandez, but who doesn't? So, yeah, Mark's looking good. Eric, you know, he can still throw him in there with some fun fights with people. And Marc-Andre, don't know exactly who he fights. You could throw him in there with a couple different guys. I would say probably like a prospect at middleweight. He's not really close to the rankings, but I would say possibly like not Baralio. What about Bruno Silva and Marc-Andre Barrios? You know, might be a fun one. Silva coming off a big win over Brad Tavares. I don't know. There's a couple different guys. But, yeah, maybe Bruno Silva, then Eric Anders, you know, just throw him in there with whoever. But, yeah, good fight. On to the second fight on the main card, 145 pounds, men's featherweight. Dan Ige taking on Nate Landwehr. Pretty good fight. I went with Nate Landwehr. Took the shot on the dog. I know Dan Ige is the more technical fighter, and the fight kind of went how I really thought it was going to go. I thought Landwehr might be able to land a couple of big shots, make it close with the wrestling. But yeah, good fight, good win for Dan Ige. Nate Landwehr showed that he can hang with them up there. Dan Ige is a weird one because he's very good, but he just can't beat the best guys in the division. So people kind of think he doesn't belong there, but he does. He's like an elite gatekeeper type of guy. And, you know, Nate Landwehr showed a lot of heart and showed some good skills. And I thought he won the third round. First round, Ige was landing some jabs and some 1-2s at range. Nate was landing some hooks in the pocket. He was level changes, but he was just taking half shots. It seemed like he was just taking them to throw Ige off. And he never really went for a true takedown, which I think it's a detriment to him. And then Ige drops him with the left hook right at the end of the first round. But you cannot knock out Nate Landwehr. He's a zombie. And then the second round, Nate was landing some jabs and some 1-2s. And then he shoots a single again. Doesn't really follow up with any. Doesn't truly shoot for the takedown. But then Dan was landing a left hook to the body and the head. And Ige drops him with left hook off of Nate's jab. And it looked like he was really going to get him out of there. He pounced on him, was landing some ground and pound, but couldn't finish it. But that shows the heart of Nate Landwehr as well. Then in the third round, Nate was landing some jabs. And Ige was landing some counter overhands and some hooks on the inside, but then Nate was pressuring with some straights and some front kicks, and then he landed some nasty elbows in the clinch, and then Ige landed a left hook to the body and the head again. He was hitting that combo all fight. but then Nate got that tie clinch, landed a couple knees to the body, and then he got the front head, but then Ige hits the arm drag, and then Nate laying some hooks at the end there, kind of chasing him, and you know, Ige seemed like he kind of stepped his foot off the gas a little bit, but he did try to finish him twice, so that's got to be exhausting. And he kind of figured he wasn't going to finish the guy, so I get it. But yeah, Ige looked really good, and Nate showed a lot of heart. Tough one, but you know, if I'm being real, that's how I thought the fight was going to go. Basically, Ige just more technical, landed the cleaner shots. So I didn't think Ige would drop him, but he did. So yeah, I mean, Ige looks good. Seems like he's back on track. They're talking about him fighting Bryce Mitchell. I think that's a perfect fight. Bryce Mitchell needs a comeback opponent. Ige's wrestling traditionally hasn't been great, his wrestling defense. So I think it's a perfect fight for each guy. Bryce Mitchell's number 11, and Ige's number 13. I think they should make that one happen. Nate Landwehr. I like Nate Landwehr and Alex Caceres maybe, but Alex Caceres needs to fight a ranked guy. So I don't know. Maybe Landwehr takes a little bit of a step back, just kind of try to get his shine back. Let's see who he can fight. There's a couple different guys he can fight at that weight class. Okay. And they can get the Nate to train rolling again. He doesn't have to be a guy that's even ranked, just a guy that has fun fights. Put him in the co-main event of not Vegas, but maybe like the feature fight of the night if it's against a fun featherweight guy. Just a type of the guy that just needs to have fun fights. Nate Landwehr, maybe like Wandre Philly's booked, but like a Hakeem Dawodu could be a fun one because Dawodu needs to get back on track. And you could go maybe even a Cron Gracie, you know. I don't know, man. A couple different fights for him. But yeah, I like Nate to train. I think he's fun for the sport, and I like to have him back. Or Billy Quarantillo, Nate to train. That could be fun down the line. Win or lose for Quarantillo's next fight. I think that'd be a really fun one. Okay, second fight of feature fight of the night, 170 pounds men's welterweight, proper Mike Malott taking on Adam Fugit. Mike Malott was a pretty big favorite there, but I still picked him. I just have a feeling about Mike Malott, man. He's explosive, and you know he looks amazing in the first round, and he's one of those guys that he needs to finish it in the first round probably, but the type of guy that gets the finishes in the first round, and it went to the second round actually, but he looked pretty good, man, the whole fight. Right away, he hurt him with that body kick. Wasn't really expecting that from him. He landed an overhand off of, and then he followed up with an overhand off of Fugit's counter kick, but then he was kind of swinging wild and he misses. That's where people have a problem with him moving up in the division. But then he's able to get the body lock trip takedown, gets to go for the arm triangle attempt, kinda, not really, and then back up, he gets a single leg, tree tops it, big trip takedown, ended the first round with authority. Then in the second round, Michael's landing some front kick, and then he drops him with the left hook and a right hook, pulls for the guillotine. That's what Erceg did in his fight early in the night, and it didn't work out for him, but for whatever reason, it works for Mike Malott. Typically, not a good move, but Mike Malott is confident in that guillotine, and he pulled it, man, right away. Gets a submission, man. Beautiful. Mike Malott is a threat on the feet and on the ground. And yeah, he's a big star for Canada, and I've been on this guy since his first fight. It took him, whenever he beat Mickey Gall, it took him a little while to get back in there, and now that Mike Malott train's rolling, they kind of have him at around number 50 right now at welterweight. He wasn't ranked, so there's a ton of fights for him. Personally, I like Matt Brown versus Mike Malott. I think that's perfect. I think Matt Brown, you know, if Matt Brown wants to fight some of the new up-and-comers, I think if Matt Brown gets a win over him, that could put some steam back on his career. And if Mike Malott wins, it shows that he can get in there and take out another heavy hitter, and that he can take down a veteran, and he can kind of ride up the ranks from there. I think both guys would get some shine off of each other's names. So I think Matt Brown would be perfect, and Matt Brown kind of have him around like number 40-ish right now. So yeah, I think that'd be perfect, man. And I'm excited to see who he fights next and see how far he can go in welterweight division. Or either him, or if you really want to move him off the ladder, maybe Daniel Rodriguez. You can catch him off a loss. But I think I like that Matt Brown fight a lot. Then co-main event of the evening, man, I couldn't have been more wrong about this fight. 155 pounds men's lightweight. Charles Oliveira taking on Beneil Dariush. I went with Beneil Dariush. This fight was supposed to happen for a long time. Ever since I heard it, I just thought Beneil would be able to defend the submission attempts. I thought he'd take his time on the ground. I didn't think he'd get caught in anything, and I thought he had the more solid positioning in the better wrestling if it went to the ground. And that was kind of true, but kind of wasn't. And then on the feet, I never really thought about it on the feet, to be honest. I know both guys can hit hard. I thought maybe Dariush should be able to catch Oliveira if Oliveira swings too wide. But Oliveira looked more technical on the feet, man. And also the Oliveira head kick, I wasn't expecting that one. And it was one round of insanity. All hell was breaking loose, and it was awesome. Charles Oliveira's back. In the first round, Charles landed as a head kick, but then Beneil clinches. He gets a body lock trip right into some ground and pound, into full guard. He was landing some ground and pound, but when you rewatch it, Charles Oliveira was dodging most of it with his head. So Beneil didn't land a lot. He was technically winning the fight at that point, you would say, but he wasn't really landing doing a ton of damage, to be honest. And then Charles rolls for the leg lock, but Beneil was wise to it, didn't get caught in there. But then Charles was able to use that to eventually get up to his feet, and then he's able to get in the clinch, and then he separates, and then he drops him with that head. And then he hits him with that head kick, wobbles him very badly, even though Beneil blocked it. Charles Oliveira has some insane power on the feet. Then he just landed some hooks, and then he was able to defend the single leg attempt. Beneil was shooting that takedown for his life, sprawls on him, gets on top of him, hits him with the old school hammer fists, and Beneil Dariush was out on the ground, man. And gets the referee stoppage. It sucks for Beneil, but Charles Oliveira's back. You know, whenever you have a tough loss like that in a title fight, and you come back and you fight the number one contender, basically, or the guy that's supposed to fight for the title next, if he beats you, it could go either way. I think we might have that was kind of a Max Holloway effect, where Max Holloway fought Arnold Allen, and Max, why would you throw a contender in there with Max Holloway? You're not going to beat him. It's kind of what happened with Charles. And it was do or die for Beneil. He's probably not going to get another title shot ever. And sucks for Beneil, but Charles Oliveira is back. And before this fight, I really want to see Beneil and Islam. Now, I want to see Charles Oliveira and Islam for the rematch, dude. I want to see it happen. At 155, people complain about you have the same 5 guys fighting each other. Well, Justin Gaethje fought Fiziev, and Justin Gaethje beat Fiziev. So Fiziev should have been the new guy in the top 5, didn't get through. And then you got Charles Oliveira, just fought for the title, or had the title, lost the title. And Beneil hasn't fought for the title yet, but Charles beat him. So Charles has earned his spot. So yeah, maybe the same 5 guys are going to keep fighting each other. That's how it's going to be. I think, you do the rematch. I think that's a great idea. You got Poirier and Gaethje fighting for the BMF at the end of July. Both those guys both had title shots already. And Charles beat both of those guys. So I get it's a fresh matchup for Islam, but who doesn't? Everybody wants to see the Oliveira rematch. And Oliveira, there's nothing else he could have done to prove his case for rematch. He gets a first-round finish over Beneil Dariush in a very exciting fight. That fight's going to sell in Abu Dhabi. I think they should do that. The winner of Gaethje and Poirier maybe gets the next title shot. And then you got, is Michael Chandler going to fight Conor McGregor? I don't know. Maybe not. Instead of Beneil Dariush fighting the up-and-coming guys that don't have a big name, maybe you could do Chandler and Dariush, because Chandler needs a fight as well. And honestly, that could get both guys back on track. It's still going to take Beneil some time to get back there for another title shot, if it ever even does happen. But if you beat Mike Chandler, I think that'll make some good headlines. That'll excite some people. I think that fight will probably go 1 round also. So I believe whoever wins that fight is going to win an exciting fight, have an exciting finish. And Mike Chandler, could get his name back in the spotlight, because Mike Chandler has some losses in the top 5. So I think it's perfect for each guy. But yeah, 155 is interesting, and I'm excited to see what happens in October. The main event of the evening at 135 pounds, women's bantamweight, Amanda Nunes taking on Irene Aldana. It was supposed to be Juliana Pena. She pulled out. Aldana had a month and a half, I think, to prepare, or a month. It's short notice, but not really. And I went with Aldana. She was plus 300 underdog, and I don't know. It's just especially women's bantamweight, not the best women's weight class. And I just went with the underdog for no reason. And, Nunes got it done. And then watching the tape, I should have known better, because Macy Chiasson was beating Aldana on the ground, and Aldana beat Chiasson with that up kick to the liver, which never happens except for women's bantamweight. So I don't know. But yeah, it was not a good fight. It was 5 rounds of a beating, and it was kind of torturous to watch it, to be honest with you. But let's get into it. First round, Juliana presses with some jabs. Sorry, Amanda presses with some jabs and hooks, and then Irene kind of keeps that high guard. She just kind of eats punches. And then Amanda gets that single leg, trips her down, doesn't cover. But then Irene at the end landed a nice counter right hook that kept Amanda off of her. And I thought that, was going to be the catalyst to Irene landing some big shots. No, she didn't land any more big shots. The rest of the fight, she did nothing after that fight. So, yeah, that's very disappointing. And we had 4 more rounds to go after this. In the second round, Nunes was pressing with some jabs and some hooks, landing some 1-2s, some leg and oblique kicks. Irene was kind of had to put a lot of weight on her lead foot. And then Nunes got that single, again, didn't cover, didn't even try to go to the ground. But then she gets the body lock off of a spin kick, and then Irene kind of kicks her off. And then third round, Irene presses forward a little bit, throwing some jabs, but then Nunes landing counter jabs and some overhands. She's able to complete the blast double off the fence, lands some nasty ground and pound, and then she gets her on her back standing, drags her back down to the mat, takes her back but slides off, but all good. Irene wasn't able to take advantage of it. And then Irene landed an overhand in the pocket, but then Nunes was landing some more counter hooks, and Nunes was landing the more powerful shots. Then in the fourth round, Aldana pressed with some jabs and some right crosses, but then Nunes landing jabs and hooks and elbows in the pocket. She introduced those nasty slicing elbows, and then Nunes was able to get the double leg again. Irene was able to kick her off, though, and then Irene was landing some uppercuts and some crosses in the clinch, but then Nunes landed an overhand at range, and then she started landing some big hooks, kind of hurting her at the end of the fourth round. Then in the fifth, Nunes was able to complete the double leg off the fence fairly early, landed some ground and pound and full guard, transition to full mount for the end of the fight, was really beating the shit out of her at the end of the fight. And, yeah, it was not close at all. And if I'm being honest, it shouldn't have been the main event, man. That was tough to watch. Say what you will, I think the Pena fight would have been more fun to watch, especially as a main event. But it is what it is, man. Irene was just kind of the next woman up, and that's what you get. And, yeah, she didn't really look good on the tape. I just picked her because of the odds, and if it was going to be Nunes' retirement fight, personally, I don't like hearing people, she never said it, but if it's going to be their last fight, I just feel like they're not on their full game. They're thinking about retirement, but not for Amanda Nunes. So, yeah, that's what happened, and Nunes is retired, her bantamweight and featherweight belt, and I think that's right. There's nothing else for her to do. Does she need to beat the shit out of Pena again? I don't think so. Now, there's a vacant belt, and Raquel Pennington weighed in, so I think Raquel Pennington deserves to be in the fight for the title. And then just throw Juliana Pena in there. She was supposed to fight Amanda, she didn't. You got Holly Holm has a fight coming up soon, so whoever wins that one could be the next challenger. But for the vacant title, I think they should do Raquel Pennington and Juliana Pena. Pennington's been on a good win streak. I think she deserves it. And, you need some excitement. And Juliana Pena, she did beat Amanda Nunes. So I think that'll be a decent storyline. It's kind of the best they can do right now. I think they should retire featherweight. I think they should combine featherweight and bantamweight and make women's heavyweight. But I don't know if they'll do that. But for the title, should be Pennington and Pena. And overall, that was a good card. I thought the first 4 fights were awesome. And the main event was tough to watch. But yeah, Canada had a good night. It was cool to see them kind of revive Canadian MMA. And yeah, I always like whenever they go to different countries. They're always fun. The France card's fun. The UK card's fun. So Brazil card was cool, and the Australian card was cool. And they're going back to either Australia or New Zealand in September. So those country cards are always fun. But didn't have a great week. 500. Just got to get a couple more fights right, and just got to pick some better underdogs. Deep down, I kind of knew I should have bet on Charles. Everybody was on Charles, really, but he was still the underdog, so that's an indicator. And then Kyle Nelson and Blake Builder. Blake Builder, he was too new. He didn't justify his minus 200, so got to take that into account as well. But, yeah. This week, we got Marvin Vettori and Jared Cannonier, 185. The fight doesn't really matter, to be honest. But maybe if somebody gets a finish, they could kind of cause some excitement. Who knows? But hopefully it's a fun fight. But I'm going to do my research and watch the tape, and I'm going to do better this week. Thanks, everybody.